Her knock came between thunder and silence, 3 short taps, then 2 longer ones, like she was trying to remember the rhythm of a life she'd walked away from. I opened the door slowly. She stood there, soaked through, hair plastered to her cheeks, that thin jacket clinging like guilt. Her mascara was already halfway down her face, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. The porch light caught her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't look proud. She looked empty. I realized everything, she whispered, voice cracking like cheap veneer. I can't live without you. I should have felt something, a jolt, a flicker, anything. But all I did was exhale. I tilted my head, studying her like an old photograph you forgot why you ever framed. Mike dumped you, didn't he? I said. Not a question, just a confirmation she hadn't expected to hear out loud. Her face twitched, just a little, but it was there. A brief ripple of humiliation before she masked it with a trembling smile, the same kind of smile she used to flash when she wanted to delay an argument or steer it off a cliff. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. If you've made it this far, and any of this feels like a memory you've tried to forget, or something you're living right now, hit the like button and subscribe. Most people just watch in silence, but that one click tells the team these stories matter. She stepped forward, but I didn't move. The threshold between us wasn't just physical, and it was built from 7 days of silence, 3 nights of staring at a ceiling I no longer hated, and one cold realization: the man she walked away from didn't exist anymore. Can I come in? She asked, voice softer now. I glanced at the clock over my shoulder. You've got 6 minutes left of my curiosity. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. She stood there like she was waiting for a script that no longer existed. Her eyes darted past me, searching for familiarity. Photos, furniture, maybe a pair of shoes she bought on a whim, but the living room had changed. The couch was new. The wall art was minimalist now, all stark lines and muted tones. No more throw pillows with ridiculous quotes. No more color-coordinated nonsense. And then she noticed the wall. The picture frames were gone, every one of them, all the wedding photos, the honeymoon snapshot from Lake Tahoe, even the stupid Polaroid of us drunk at her cousin's barbecue. Nothing left but a faint square of dust on the paint and 2 nail holes that looked like accusations. Where's our stuff? I shrugged. Boxed up, storage, or gone. Depends on the item. She blinked, then looked down like she'd stepped into a house built by someone else. I made a mistake, she said, and tried to cry cute, like this was prom night again, and she just needed one more slow dance. I reached into my pocket and pulled out her old key, held it between us like an artifact. Then I dropped it into a metal dish on the side table by the door, next to a new set, my set. That doesn't open anything here anymore. Her lip quivered. Todd, I thought we could... No, you thought I'd wait. She swallowed hard, wiping her face with the sleeve of that cheap jacket. I watched her fingers tremble, and for a moment I remembered how those hands used to steady mine. But memory isn't permission. It's just residue. You don't get to disappear for a week and come back when your other option dries up, I said, voice steady. This isn't a waiting room. She took one step back. I didn't close the door. I wanted her to see what she left behind, but not to step inside it again. Let her feel it in the cold air, in the sound of the rain hitting the porch light, in the absence of warmth from the home she once knew. You look different, she said, almost to herself. I nodded. I am, and I was. I'd been drinking black coffee again, lifting heavier at the gym, sleeping with the bedroom window open, just to feel something real. I wasn't the man who begged her to talk. I wasn't the man who made excuses for her absences. That man was gone, and she was just now realizing it. The silence between us stretched, thick and wet with everything unspoken. Then, finally, she took another step back. Her shoes squelched against the concrete. She looked at me like she wanted to say more, but nothing she could say would land. So I closed the door, didn't slam it, just shut it, and let the lock click softly into place behind me. She didn't move after I shut the door, just stood there behind the glass, like she thought it was still up for negotiation, like if she lingered long enough, I'd open it again and say something tender, something dumb, something like the man she remembered would have said. Instead, I flipped the deadbolt from the inside and walked back toward the kitchen. Through the window, I could see her shift her weight from foot to foot, shivering. One arm wrapped around herself like that would keep her warm. She glanced back at her car, parked crooked, headlights still on, then back at the door, the same one she used to waltz through like she owned the air inside. She rang the bell once more. I didn't answer, but I did walk over, slow and steady, and opened it halfway. Not enough for warmth to reach her, just enough for her to hear me. "You're still here?" Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. I made a mistake. I nodded like I was checking off a receipt. "Yeah, you did." She stepped forward slightly, one foot landing just past the threshold line. Not inside, but like she wanted to test it. "It wasn't what I thought it would be," she whispered. "Mike's apartment?" I asked. "Or Mike himself?" She blinked hard. "I didn't mean for it to go that way. I needed space, and he was available," I said. "He was available." Her lips parted like she had a rebuttal, but nothing came out. She glanced past me again, eyes sweeping the living room. She didn't see the throw blanket she picked out from Pottery Barn, or the framed photo of her mom smiling on the bookshelf. There were no scented candles, no monogrammed coffee mugs, not even the welcome mat she bought that said, "Home Sweet Home," with a heart instead of the O. It was gone, all of it, sterilized. Her breath caught. "Where is everything?" "Gone." She swallowed. "The photos?" "Boxed. My kitchen mixer, my books, my birth certificate." I pulled my phone from my back pocket, tapped a few times, and held it up. A photo of a storage unit receipt, 6-month lease, prepaid, in her maiden name. I zoomed in on the locker number. "Unit B12, off McKinley, code's the last 4 of your old cell." She blinked again, like her brain had to buffer that response. I continued. "It's climate controlled, nothing's damaged, you've got until May." "Todd," she murmured. I leaned against the doorframe, calm, not cruel, just done. "You said you needed space, so I gave you all of it in cubic feet." She looked down at her shoes. They were soaked. Probably new, probably something she thought made her look more serious. But they weren't broken in, and the wet concrete was already working on them. I thought maybe we could talk." I checked my watch. "You've got 4 minutes left of my curiosity." The way her face dropped, like someone just told her Santa wasn't real, might have gutted me 6 months ago. But now, it didn't even nick the surface. "I tried calling you yesterday," she said. "Blocked. I emailed, filtered." She winced. "You changed the locks." "Day 2. My name's still on the—" "No," I said, cutting her off. "Your name's not on the lease, it's not on the insurance, it's not on the power bill, it's not on anything, not anymore." "But we don't," I said, "not anymore." She stared at me. Really stared. Like she was searching for some version of me that might still want her, that might still burn with the fear of losing her, but I wasn't there. I'd scrubbed her out of the paperwork like mold off a shower wall. Quietly. Completely. Legally. She was looking at a house she no longer belonged to, a man she no longer recognized, and a life that had no vacancy. "I thought," she began, "I know what you thought." And I did. She thought I'd wait. She thought I'd hold on, that I'd keep the lights on just in case she came back in the middle of the night like some movie scene. She didn't think I'd move on. I let the door rest in my palm for a second, then shut it again. No anger, no speech, just silence and the click of finality. I didn't look out the window after that, but I didn't need to. The rain had already washed the welcome away. The next morning my phone buzzed once. Her name didn't show anymore. Just a number, like a stranger trying to act familiar. I left my birth certificate and some jewelry at the old place. I didn't reply with a word, just a screenshot, the storage receipt I'd already sent the night before, but she hadn't saved it. Or maybe she thought I'd cave and hand-deliver her past. Locker B12, 6 months paid in advance, climate-controlled, contents logged and sealed under her maiden name. It was clean, just like the exit she didn't think I'd prepare. 5 minutes passed. Then came another message. Why can't I access the bank account? No greeting, no apology, just confusion dressed as entitlement. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because the moment she typed that, I knew she'd finally felt the free fall. The account was gone, not closed, not emptied, just no longer shared. 3 days after she said she needed space, I moved everything, not out of spite, out of self-respect. Separate accounts, credit line split, utilities transferred, insurance adjusted. Even the online grocery list got a new login. Everything she used to have access to was now guarded by two-factor authentication and one very simple truth. I was done playing backup character in my own life. She tried to guess the password. I saw the lockout notifications. Then her number stopped working with two-step verification because it had been removed. Her face wasn't part of this network anymore. I imagined her sitting somewhere unfamiliar, scrolling through her contacts like maybe she could call one of our friends. But she didn't realize how quiet things had gone on the other side. People notice when someone evaporates and only returns when another door slams on them. Then her Venmo pinged, or rather, it didn't. Her access was flagged. I'd closed the joint account linked to it the night I watched her Instagram story from what looked suspiciously like Mike's apartment. The glass in the background, the wall mirror, the navy blue couch with 2 dumbbell sets next to it. I'd recognized the place from that one gym invite she had claimed was a small group thing. I hadn't said a word, just opened the banking app and made the change. She wouldn't know any of this yet, not until she tried to move money. And she did. Because 30 minutes later, I got a push notification, not from her, no, from the ghost trail she didn't realize she'd left behind. Uber, 922, pickup, Mike's apartment, drop off, Days Inn, North Side, room 204, in the notes, no response, no closure. It hit me different, not with anger, not even with sadness, just confirmation that her little side trip hadn't ended with champagne or roses or a sunrise breakfast. It ended in a budget motel with a vending machine outside and silence inside. I didn't text her, didn't gloat. I just opened my spreadsheet, yeah, the same one she used to mock when she called me Mr. Excel spreadsheet to her friends, and updated a cell. Closure, attempted, failed. There was something about seeing it in black and white. The breakup wasn't when she left. It wasn't even when Mike opened his door. It was when she tried to come back and realized the key no longer fit, not just in the lock, but in the entire system. She thought she had time, thought she could explore and return like life was a roundabout, but I'd already pulled the ladder, and all she had now was the view from the bottom. By Tuesday, her texts turned quiet. No more, "Can we talk?" or "Please, just hear me out." That silence told me exactly what she was doing, digging around, trying to piece together a version of me she could still predict, still pull toward her. But the man she knew was gone before she ever packed her overnight bag from Mike's place. I got the first hint from my brother. He sent me a screenshot, her number, missed call, voicemail. "Hey, just wondering if you've heard from Todd. I've been trying to reach him. Can you let him know I'd love to talk?" His response was perfect. "No hablo inglés." She tried again. This time with my cousin Devin. He told her I'd moved to Alaska. Bought a cabin. Fishes bears now. Off the grid, you know. She didn't even blink when he told her. Just said, "Okay, thanks," and hung up. But I could picture the panic starting to rise behind her voice. She wasn't looking for closure anymore. She was looking for proof I hadn't vanished from her reach, that maybe I was just hurt, or licking wounds, or waiting for her to say the right words. But she'd underestimated something important. I hadn't just moved on. I'd become someone else. That night, she did what people do when they're out of back doors. She Googled me, and she found it. A local news article, short, clean, business profile, no fluff. I was in a gray suit, no tie, standing in front of a municipal building, shaking hands with a state official and holding a printed banner that read, "Rural Tech Grant Awarded." Headline, "Director of Operations Todd Marrow to oversee Innovation Hub in Eastern Counties." The man in that photo, he didn't wear hoodies anymore, didn't carry bags under his eyes from late-night arguments or silent dinners. He looked 10 pounds lighter, 10 years calmer. She stared at it, read it again, and somewhere inside, she must have realized she had no idea who I was anymore, because she never really knew me to begin with. To her, I'd always been the safe bet, the quiet one, the guy who refilled the windshield fluid before she noticed it was low, who stayed late fixing the leaking pipe under her parents' sink, who smiled through family birthdays while she drank too much wine and flirted with the guy 2 seats over. But now I was the name under a press release, the face of a program she'd never heard of, the man who got a handshake from someone she couldn't name, and a job title she didn't understand. And the worst part, she wasn't part of the story anymore, not even in the footnotes. I wasn't angry. I didn't feel the urge to send the article or forward it through mutual friends. That wasn't the point. The point was that she was looking for a door back in, and all she found was a reflection of a man who looked like me, sounded like me, but had outgrown the version of her that left, the version that thought she could always circle back, that I'd still be in the same spot, holding the same key. She shut the laptop that night. I'm sure of it, because once you realize the person you left behind has not only moved on, but become unrecognizable without you. That's not just a closed chapter. It's a whole different book you're no longer written into. She finally got a lawyer, probably a friend of a friend, or someone who owed her mom a favor from back when they chaired the school auction together. Either way, he was green, probably good at divorce mediation when both sides still wanted to split the wedding china fairly. Not so good when one party had already pulled the parachute months before the first sign of turbulence. I heard from a mutual acquaintance, one of the few who still picked up her calls, said she looked pale during the consult, like she had all the words rehearsed, but forgot how to breathe once the question started. Why did you sign the quitclaim? I thought it was for home repairs. And the LLC agreement? I didn't read it. He just said it was part of the refi. She wanted to contest the property split, thought she could claw her way back into the house, or at least get a payout from whatever she assumed I'd eventually sell it for. The front porch alone had gone up in value, thanks to the renovation I started the week after she left. Her lawyer, bless him, left 2 voicemails for mine before finally getting someone on the line, and when he did, he got hit with a wall of paperwork, digital timestamps, notarized signatures, documented revisions, every I dotted, every T crossed. She'd signed it all 3 years ago, back when we refinanced after she begged to put in skylights to let the energy flow. That refinance wasn't just about interest rates and a new roof. It was a strategic restructuring, one she hadn't bothered to read. She skimmed the first page, saw her name printed at the top, and signed it like she always did, distracted, half listening, already planning the next kitchen remodel in her head. She transferred her 50% stake into a holding company, and the holding company, it was mine, formed in my name, managed through a trust, with a clause that froze her access the moment she vacated the property for more than 7 consecutive days without written notice. Her lawyer didn't even try to spin it. He sighed. You already agreed to terms during that refinance he filed 3 years ago. She scoffed. I thought that was for the new gutters. Nope, he said. That was part of the home improvement line. The equity transfer was a separate addendum, right under your signature, initialed twice. There was a pause. A long one. Then came the question she didn't want to ask. And who owns the company? He didn't answer right away. Maybe he waited to see if she could say it out loud herself. She could. Todd, she whispered. That was the moment it hit her. Not just that she'd signed something she hadn't read, but that I'd planned this. Not as a trap, but as insurance. For myself. For the years I spent being steady while she chased chaos in prettier clothes. She had spent the last few days thinking I was playing hard to get, but I wasn't playing. I'd already won. She tried to recover, of course, asked if she could discuss adjustments or renegotiate access to certain assets she claimed were hers. The pool chairs, the guest bedroom she decorated in seafoam green, the patio furniture with her initials stitched into the cushions, all of it technically belonged to the company now, and the company didn't list her as a member. That week, she didn't text, didn't call, didn't try to push back again, because the truth was simple. She lost the house the day she walked out. She just didn't realize it until someone else had to read the contract back to her, line by line, and by then, her name wasn't even on the title anymore. She showed up at my office on a Thursday morning, hair blown out, fresh lipstick, high heels that clicked like punctuation across the marble lobby floor. Her expression carried the same mix of panic and entitlement I'd seen the night she stood dripping on my porch, demanding closure as if it were a favor I owed her. But this time, she wasn't outside my door. She was inside a building she didn't belong to. The receptionist didn't even look up from her screen when the glass doors hissed open behind her. She simply asked, calm and flat, "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm his wife," she said, like it was a trump card she could still play. A beat passed. Then the receptionist lifted her gaze, eyes blank. Ex-wife. The silence that followed was brutal. Even from behind glass, I could feel the static of her pride unraveling. She didn't argue, just blinked once. Hard. Then security appeared like summoned spirits, two of them, suited and quiet. One flanked each side of her without touching her. Their presence alone did the job. "Ma'am," the taller one said, "we're going to need you to leave the premises." "I just want to speak to him," she muttered, but her voice had already dropped. Not soft, deflated. The receptionist returned to typing. Security didn't respond. The only thing louder than her heels was the slow realization that no one in this building recognized her as anything but a disruption. They walked her to the door, didn't drag, didn't shame, just removed. Later that evening, she must have gone home and started digging again, needing to understand what exactly she'd missed while she was busy romanticizing gym dates and morning smoothies in Mike's overpriced loft. She found it in a local business journal. Not a big one, but well read among people who mattered, an op-ed titled "Entrepreneurs Over 40 Reinventing Rural Commerce." She clicked, and there I was, second name on the list, right under a guy who built a fleet of delivery drones out of salvaged lawnmower parts and old Motorola batteries. The write-up was clean. Todd Marrow, Director of Operations at Cedar Point Labs, former HVSC analyst, currently overseeing the multi-county infrastructure rollout for the State Innovation Corridor. There was a photo. Black sport coat, no tie, simple lapel pin. The caption read, "From hometown roots to state-level impact." She stared at the screen, I'm sure, not just at my name, but at the words that followed it, the metrics, the grants, the pilot programs I now led. This wasn't the man who once spent 10 minutes explaining the difference between 2.5% and 3% mortgage rates while she scrolled on her phone. This wasn't the boring guy with spreadsheets she'd joked about to her friends over wine. This wasn't background noise. This was someone whose name meant something outside of a mailbox she no longer had a key to. And that was the part she never expected. She didn't just lose me, she got replaced by something bigger than herself, by progress, by momentum, by a story she wasn't part of anymore. I didn't need her to see me happy or successful, but it didn't hurt knowing the last door she tried to walk through wasn't just locked. It had never been hers to begin with. The envelope came without a sound. Just a plain white rectangle slid into the old brass mail slot at her mother's house in Oak Hill. No return address, no stamp, no handwriting, just clean folds and deliberate weight, as if it had been delivered by intention, not chance. Her mother didn't ask questions, just handed it over during a strained Sunday lunch with a shrug and an arched brow. "This came for you, from someone who clearly wants to remain anonymous." She peeled it open at the table, next to a half-eaten quiche and a full glass of box Pinot. Inside was a single USB drive. No label, no logo, just brushed metal and silence. She waited until she got back to her apartment, dimmed the lights, poured herself another glass, and plugged it into her laptop. For a few seconds, the screen stayed black. Then it blinked to life. The first video loaded instantly. It was her. The footage looked handheld, maybe a phone recording from the corner of the gym. She was leaning against a wall, laughing, running her fingers through her hair the way she always did when she wanted attention. Mike stood a few feet away, smirking, wiping sweat off his arms. She looked up at him and said something that made him laugh. And then she mimed holding a clipboard, doing a dull, slow-motion impression of me. "Mr. Excel spreadsheet," she called me, giggling to herself. "He tracks grocery receipts like they're stock reports." Mike laughed again. So did someone else off camera. Maybe a friend. Maybe someone she didn't realize was recording. The next clip was at a dinner table, dim lighting, multiple wine glasses, the clink of forks. She was mid-story, voice raised just enough to be heard over the ambient jazz. "He gets up at 6 a.m. every day just to check the weather report, like the sky might sneak up on him." Another round of laughter. "If he ever cheated, it'd be with a calculator." She smiled wide in the video, confident, unapologetic, enjoying the attention. Then the scene cut. New footage, different energy. Now it was me. The camera angle was low, possibly from a table or armrest. I was sitting across from someone older, my mentor maybe, dressed casually, speaking plainly, my voice calm, clear. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just done being background noise, done waiting for her to see me." A pause. I kept thinking if I just held steady, she'd stop reaching for chaos, that I'd be enough. But some people need noise, and some of us learn to prefer silence. The clip ended. There was no transition, just one final image. Black screen, then a title card in white block letters, sharp and centered, documented, preserved, erased. The drive ejected itself automatically. She sat there staring at the blank screen, fingers curled around the edge of the laptop, knuckles white, her mouth slightly open, as if trying to exhale something that wouldn't come. She had no idea what had been recorded, or when, no idea who captured what, who gave it to me, who delivered it back. Was it all accidental? Or had she been part of a long, quiet observation? The problem wasn't just embarrassment, it was the realization that everything she thought she'd hidden behind jokes, winks, and sarcasm had been seen, heard, cataloged, and worse, answered, because what she just watched wasn't revenge. It was a mirror, a final one, and she couldn't look away. The first thing she noticed was the silence. Not mine. She'd gotten used to that. It was Mike's. No more late-night texts, no more morning memes, no more "you up" with that half-assed grin attached to a photo of his abs in the mirror. Just quiet, digital, and complete. She sent 3 messages, then 4, then one more she deleted mid-typing. None were marked as read. Then she tried to call. Straight to voicemail. No ring, no delay, just a cold, automated wall. Blocked. She showed up at his place 2 nights later, hair curled, makeup just shy of accidental, like she was pretending it was casual. His roommate answered the door, phone still in hand. He moved out. She blinked. What? He said he needed space. Her laugh cracked like glass. Space from what? The guy just shrugged. He didn't say, took his gear, left the blender, didn't really explain. She stood on that doorstep longer than she should have, still hoping he'd walk around the corner, say it was a joke, say anything. But the apartment stayed quiet, so she drove home, alone. When she walked in, her mom was at the kitchen island, pouring a plastic cup of boxed Chardonnay. The TV was on, tuned to some home renovation show no one was watching. I saw that file, her mom said without turning. The USB. She froze. How? It was on your desk. I clicked. And she didn't respond, just stared at the wine sloshing into the cup. Her mom sipped, finally looked at her. You torched a good man. The words hit harder than she expected, maybe because they came from someone who had once called me dependable, the highest compliment in her personal vocabulary, or maybe because the judgment wasn't cruel. It was resigned. The next morning, she opened her group chat, the one labeled My Ride or Dies. She sent a meme. Something about men being emotional only when it's raining. No response. She sent another. Still nothing. A few hours later, she noticed the profile photos had changed. Everyone smiling at brunch without her. A new group photo. She wasn't in it. Then came the gym. Her keycard didn't beep. Red light. Probably a system error, she said to the kid at the desk. He typed a few things, then frowned. Looks like your account was part of a family plan. It's inactive, she blinked. What family? He gave her a look, half sorry, half indifferent. You might want to reach out to whoever was paying. That was me, and I hadn't paid it since the second week she moved out. She sat in her car for a long time after that. Engine running, radio off, just the sound of the fan and her own breathing. It wasn't just Mike, it wasn't just the gym. Her favorite wine shop didn't text her about new arrivals anymore. Her nail tech didn't offer her last-minute openings. Even the dry cleaner didn't greet her by name. Everything she had touched in our life, every thread she thought she could return to, had moved on without her, not out of cruelty, just inertia. People fill empty spaces quickly when they're left gaping. She wasn't being punished, she was being forgotten. And the scariest part, no one had to force it. The email landed in her inbox at 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. She almost deleted it without opening. It looked like another nonprofit newsletter, the kind she used to skim when she still played the part of the involved spouse at community events. But the subject line caught her. Meet our new sponsor. Curiosity nudged her finger. She clicked. There, at the top of the newsletter, was a photo. Me standing beside a podium, clean cut, button-down shirt, blazer, and a modest smile that said everything and nothing. Next to me stood a woman in a blue blouse holding a plaque. Below us, a banner that read, Men Rebuilding Stronger, Post-Divorce Support and Recovery Fund. Her scroll slowed. The text beneath the photo read, We're proud to welcome Todd Marrow as a founding sponsor of our Rural Men's Initiative, supporting those navigating divorce, loss, and personal rebuilding with dignity. She blinked, reread it. The Todd she left, who she called boring, forgettable, a man without fire, was now helping other men recover from women like her, publicly, quietly, strategically. But it got worse. She kept scrolling. Near the bottom of the newsletter was the donor ledger, a clean list of founding contributions and their sources. She expected to see my name again, but what she didn't expect was her own. There it was, a small line under initial contribution sources. Marrow Household Fund, account. U1, closed. She froze. It was her old checking account. The same one we'd used for household expenses, repairs, wine clubs, and weekend Airbnbs. She always said, strengthened our marriage. The account I had access to until I quietly closed it weeks after she left. The date of the donation, almost 2 years ago. Right after I'd pitched that refinance idea, she signed off on with barely a glance. She had funded her own replacement, her name, her signature, her approval, all of it, tucked into a footnote of a movement designed to support the men left behind by women who found greener grass and ran toward it, heels clicking. She clicked the link to the foundation's page. There was a short video, footage of me speaking at a local event, standing under a banner that read, We don't get loud, we get clear. I was mid-sentence. We're not here to bash anyone. We're here because rebuilding in silence doesn't mean rebuilding alone. Applause followed. Men clapped slowly, some nodded, a few wiped their eyes. She closed the browser, sat there, staring at her own reflection in the dark screen. This wasn't karma with fire and fury. It wasn't a billboard or a public takedown. It was worse. It was legacy, measured, intentional, irreversible, and in the background of all of it, her money, her trust, her assumption that I'd never think bigger than fixing gutters and packing lunch. She didn't just leave me, she built the staircase I used to rise without her, and by the time she realized it, the view from the top no longer included her name. It arrived on a Wednesday. No knock, no tracking number, just a thin black envelope resting at the edge of her doorstep like it had landed by gravity, not hand. Rain had kissed the corners, but the seal was dry. No name, no return address, just matte paper and weight that didn't match its size. She hesitated before picking it up. Instinct told her not to open it, but curiosity is a cruel echo. She carried it to the kitchen, slicing it open with a butter knife. No note inside, no letter, just one thing, a photo. Old but not worn, glossy, crisp. It was her, frozen in mid-laugh, shoulders back, eyes half-lidded, wine glass in one hand, wearing the coral dress she used to say made her feel effortlessly expensive. The photo had been taken at her birthday party 2 years ago. She hadn't known it was being taken, hadn't posed. It was the kind of moment people post and caption caught off guard, with 3 emojis and a filter. But what she never saw, what no one else noticed then, was the hand in the lower left corner. My hand, holding divorce papers. She stared at it, throat tight, because she remembered that party. Remembered the decorations, the cake, the playlist curated by her friend Chelsea. She remembered telling someone at the bar, if Todd makes it through tonight without another budgeting comment, maybe I'll keep him 1 more year. Everyone had laughed. So had she. But now, looking at the photo, it didn't feel funny anymore. She flipped it over, and there, in small block letters, printed clean and unshaken, was the message, Mike dumped you, but I'm the one who left you first. No signature, no explanation, just silence pressed into the back of a memory she used to think belonged only to her. She dropped into the kitchen chair slowly, the edges of the photo biting into her fingertips. There was no follow-up, no text, no email, no dramatic crescendo, just a clean cut through the middle of a story she thought she could rewrite whenever she wanted. He hadn't waited for her to walk away. He'd already let go long before she noticed she was falling, and now she wasn't just alone, she was irrelevant to the ending. Because sometimes the most brutal closure isn't the door slamming shut. It's realizing it's been locked for years and you only just tried the handle.